I stayed up late last night to test Gorgo in the Garrison, and I was actually shocked with the results. They weren't as good as I was expecting. So stick around in this video for a breakdown of how Queen Gorgo is performing in the Garrison and if I think she's worth investing in, because she's actually not as strong as I thought she would be. Hello, my friends, and welcome back. I'm Chisgule Gaming, and when a new commander comes in game, I always go and try to live stream the commander being tested the very day that they land in game. And not just any testing, but expertise commander testing, whether it's rallying, garrisoning, or open fielding. I like to show what the commander can do. And although I can't run all the tests all at once, so we still have some open field tests to do, we've got some preliminary results related to rallying with Gorgo that we need to review today. And I am a little concerned for her performance, but also still very optimistic that although she didn't test well, I think she actually will still perform well in a lot of situations. Now, if you like to see videos about commanders and how they perform as soon as they land in game, consider subscribing to the channel. That's something I've been doing for a really long time now, I think years, of showcasing commanders the moment they're in the game. So let me first talk about the test methodology here. We're in an Ark of Osiris practice match, and the way this works is really simple. We did a full gear test here because we wanted to see how will the commander perform with gear, and this is actually important, although skews the results. And it's funny because whenever I test without gear, people criticize it because it's a no gear test. And whenever I test with gear, people criticize it because there's like 5 different variants worth of gear that they want tested, and they think that's not acceptable. So this is a gear test. The advantage is we get to see how the accessories influence the outcome. Now, I'm going to put on the screen the talents and equipment that were being used here. And there's a couple things that I want to call out. First of all, with Gorgo, a greatest glory is kind of like all damage. Remember, she does smite damage. Smite damage is elevated by normal attack, and all damage is boosting your normal attack and your skill damage. So it's actually pretty easy to understand how on Queen Gorgo, you could see the greatest glory being really, really good for its increase to normal attack boost. However, you do also notice that Fluffy Pony, who was the Garrison, and big shout out to Fluffy Pony, thank you so much for maxing the commander for these tests. They are missing the crit on the KVK helmet. They are 75 out of 100, which really, really sucks. By the way, big shout out again to 2605, my main account Kingdom, and 2293 for showcasing testing. The live stream we did yesterday was the testing from 2293. What I'm showing you here is going to be the testing from 2605. That's my main account. Now, the other thing we tested was actually a Xeno primary. And you may be wondering, why did you test a Xeno primary with Gorgo secondary? And Xeno does a number of things that are pretty cool. First of all, she gives herself a normal attack damage boost. That's kind of a big deal because in this context with smite damage, it's actually kind of like an all damage boost for Gorgo. So Zenobia is actually a pair that I mean, I can't believe Zenobia is still a commander we're talking about, but it would suck to swarm Xeno and Gorgo. Like, they are very anti-swarm, and this game is all about swarming garrisons at the top end. So let's actually get a look at some of these reports, and we'll see kind of what you think here. For the most part, we actually rallied with cavalry. We have a really powerful rally here with the Nevsky Justinian, and we just kind of hammered garrisons with the exact same thing over and over. One time we did a Nevsky Joan just to show how much worse the Joan is, but like, yeah, Nevsky Justinian's really, really good. So first thing we tested is Gorgo Liucha, and this is the garrison we were expecting to probably do the best because of the smite damage synergy. I honestly expected this would absolutely slap, and it didn't. 202,000 to 139,000. If I look at the troop buffs, I mean, you can see these are both maxed. And a big shout out again to Fluffy Pony, who maxed Liu Che for our being able to test that the moment that Liu Che landed in game. Super, super chill, man. So, yeah, Gorgo Liu Che ain't it. I mean, you just rally with Nevsky Justinian and you shred. So, if infantry are getting shredded by cavalry with this combo, what else could we do? So next we tried Gorgo Xeno, and this is not really the way to run the combo. Don't worry, we'll flip it around in a bit. The reason we're running it this way is specifically because Gorgo needs to be the primary for actually a couple reasons. First of all, the rage reduction on her active skills. She's got 900 rage requirement instead of 1,000. But also the equipment's on the Gorgo. So that's the way we got to run it. And it's 225,000 to 164. So this really was not amazing either. So, okay. What now? We try the Xeno as the primary, and suddenly things get more interesting. So the Xeno-Gorgo combo did better, 208,000 to 185,000. This is closer, but this is still infantry losing to cavalry, which ain't good. Like, this is not where you want to be. So the next test that we ran is Gorgo Hera, and this was successful only because it's up against a Joan. It shows how bad. Like, anytime someone rallies Nevsky Joan, bruh, they just don't know. 183 to 303 is brutal. But when you actually rally properly, look at this. The Nevsky Justinian, 212,000 to 158,000. Nevsky Justinian against Gorgo Hera. So if Hera's not it, and Xeno's not it, and Liuche's not it, what about Flavius? Right? Like, maybe Flavius gets the job done. And so we tried a Gorgo Flavius, and this also was unimpressive. 207,000 to 160,000. Bit of a yikes. Now, I think this result absolutely could be improved by taking the Desperate Elegy talent. I think those talents are really, really good, and I would not skip them unless you are very, very confident that your garrison is just going to get swarmed. And I actually think, unironically, you should just be switching between talent builds if you need to either have a talent build with Desperate Elegy to, like, hey, I'm just getting rallied or I'm defending a pass, versus without it when you're like, hey, this fort or flaggy is going to get swarmed, and we know for sure the enemy is doing that very aggressively, then you would, get rid of that talent because you don't need the rage. Okay, but the Gorgo Flavius, I don't know, man. I think you could get a better result with different talents. Truly, none of these Gorgo combos were particularly impressive. So then what? We tried a Xeno Flavius just for some, like, perspective, right? Like, if you were running Xeno Flavius, which I get that, like, maybe you would run Flav Hera instead, for example, or Xeno Hera if you really wanted anti-swarm. But, like, how does the Gorgo compare? Okay? Well, Xeno Flavius was 243 to 122. So Gorgo is definitely an improvement. It's a big improvement over using Xeno with that same combo. But, like, these results still aren't amazing. Normally, a new thing shows up and it just wins. This was the closest we got to just winning, but we didn't. Xeno Gorgo against Nevsky Justinian. We ran it back again. And it almost went even. 209,000 to 197,000. Now, this Xeno is using Ringhorn, which I think is the way, generally speaking. And the Xeno Gorgo is extremely promising. I think this might actually be one of the best combos. And there is an exception to that, and we'll kind of talk about that when we flip over to my restart, okay? Final test that we ran here was a Gorgo Hera again against a Nevsky Justinian, 205,000 to 153,000. So, look, I'm shocked that Xeno is looking so viable, especially in an anti-swarm context. It's really surprising. But, like, Xeno is looking really viable right now with Gorgo. And that might actually be one of your best bets, except there is one other thing that we do need to talk about. And that other thing we need to talk about is, weirdly enough, archer rallies. Now, you may think, archer rallies? Why do we need to talk about archer rallies? Well, see, here's the thing. Henry primary is often used. Henry Zhuge Liang. And Henry is terrifying as a rally. When used correctly, it is disgusting what you can get done. And a part of the reason is that Henry has a lot of skill damage mitigation. Well, guess who doesn't care about skill damage? It's actually Gorgo. Gorgo isn't doing skill damage. She's doing smite damage. So she magically circumvents all of the damage mitigation that otherwise is just absolutely massive in favor of Henry. So if I actually just show you Henry, I was trying to show you the reports, but they're still loading in. Henry does a couple things that mitigate skill damage. The first is on his active skill, and I am going to probably need to filter by archers. Here he is. active skill, okay? Skill damage taken reduction of 30% for 5 seconds. This is a big part of what he's doing on his active skill. And it's completely circumvented. So this is really major, okay? This is really, really, really major. So one other thing he's got is talents that also in the support tree are just massively mitigating skill damage. So I can show you, for example, on Trajan, we look at the talents. Here's another 9% skill damage taken reduction, and you may go to emergency protection. And this represents even more skill damage taken reduction, which, again, Gorgo doesn't care. Smite damage just like completely circumvents it. It's kind of insane. So my thought here is that it is surprising, but these were also full gear tests. I don't have pictures of the gear, so I don't want to assume that it's like perfect. But if we just get a look here, okay, this was on the restart. We ran Justinian Nevsky here with the Gorgo Hera, and you can see Gorgo Hera was losing. Over here, Gorgo Hera was losing again. We had different gear here than on the main account. I'll put the gear on the screen because Maury's got some really interesting choices to sort of optimize for the Hera. And if we go over here, here's a Henry Boudica. And look at this result. Like, infantry defeating the archers. Now, okay, Boudica's not really the meta rally. So, like, here's the meta rally, I think. Henry with Zhuge Liang. Much more impressive of a combo, and it's getting kind of shredded. So, I don't know if there was something going on with the equipment there that made this sort of result the way that it turned out. I'll just put the stats up on the screen here. This was a full gear test with city theme and tokens. And it was an Ark of Osiris practice match. So don't compare to your KVK stats. That doesn't work, right? You have other buffs in KVK that you don't get here. But I think, weirdly enough, that like Gorgo might make it so that you are countering the archers. Here's a Boudica Henry rally. I don't think running the rally in this combo is necessarily the best way, but a positive result again for the Gorgo. So, like, even against infantry, the Gorgo, this is a Gorgo Flavius, didn't do particularly well. These results were closer, though, on my restart. That's true. We brought in a Liu Che that wasn't maxed, and, like, it didn't do great. And these results are consistent. That's the thing that's interesting is, even though the gear was different between the restart accounts and my main account and those players, like, the results are actually very similar, like, surprisingly similar. So, and here you can see Gorgo Zeno is doing pretty well, still losing. But we found the better way to run the combo, remember, is the Zeno primary, Gorgo secondary. So, if you want to see, by the way, what it's like to swarm this garrison, we 12x swarmed it and traded negative. So, yeah, I mean, I think overall Gorgo is actually going to be good. And my conclusions are as follows. Although the reports are not the kind of outcome that I think we were hoping for, I do think that in a KVK context where you're getting surrounded, she could be extremely good. And like, why the heck is that? Well, I think it's because she's boosting her normal attack and counterattack damage. Remember, normal attack damage represents two things in this game. The damage you deal to the thing you're directly targeting, and the damage you deal automatically to everybody else that's hitting you. So she's boosting her normal attack, which is nice. 10% chance to increase normal attack damage taken of the target, which is a really nice debuff, by the way. She's got increased health, 25% chance to deal smite damage. And here it is. Whenever you deal smite damage, you gain a bonus to your normal attack damage. So I think she's actually really difficult to swarm, especially with this debuff when she's getting low, shredding the attack of the swarmers. I think her role might be as an anti-swarm garrison, which is super valuable in the end game. I think that's where she really will shine. And I also think that she may actually be weird counter to sort of archers, because specifically Henry is so reliant on his skill damage taken mitigation, I think. And it just makes those parts of his kit completely meaningless. So that's my thought for where Gorgo's at. Now, she could also be really good in the field, and if that's something you want to see, good news, we're definitely going to do more testing and see, hey, is Gorgo field viable as well? Because, like, we all want to know if not only she's going to work in the garrison, but will she also crush it in the field? So if that's the sort of thing you want to see, consider subscribing to the channel. If you want to see the live stream where we're testing on my restart account, card will be in the end screen for that in just a second. And by the way, I just want to give another fat shout out to 2605, which is my main account kingdom, and 2293, which is my restart account kingdom, for taking a bunch of time to put together testing. And I literally did nothing. I just showed up, and I am so deeply appreciative of that. So thank you so much. I really appreciate you guys. Check out those cards in the end screen, and until next time, you have fun smashing the kingdom.